My name's Corey Glover. I own Blue Stilly Agri Service, and this is my service truck. So the name of the truck is Big Bird, and I think that's pretty appropriate. There's like all kinds of crap in here. Yeah, it's a total crayon box of tools. If you're looking for a hidden gem, an old fire truck is the way to go. So this did start as a fire truck, and that's how I bought it. The front doesn't look totally different from when I bought it. The winch was still in here. I did put in the bench vise. That was new. I just had to mount that. But as far as the bumper and everything, that's all the exact same, which provides a pretty nice work surface. It's almost too nice with the diamond plate. You're afraid you're gonna screw it up all the time. But all the emergency lights, the fire department left it on when I bought it, so they all still work. Everything functions. Obviously, I don't get to use them on any public roadway, but I do play with them from time to time when the appropriate situation arises. But I do a lot of work up here, and so far I haven't had anything fly off and damage the hood or anything. Fingers crossed. And then working our way back, having a crew cab was a big upgrade. I've never had a service truck that was any more than a single cab, and you find a lot of stuff to stick in here. So I keep all my sensitive electrical stuff up here. So obviously the Milwaukee display stays here. My computer, some of the electrical test equipment, anything that has batteries, I try and keep in here. We don't get extreme colds or extreme heat, but it's cold enough in the winter and hot enough in the summer. I want to keep it in a climate controlled cab. So this was the original pump panel. So everything here was for the fire side of it. So it had all the valves and the discharges for the hose and everything. And then up here was two bays for a pre-connected hose. So took that out, mounted the welder generator, which runs obviously the welding leads, but honestly I put like 200 hours on it, and 90% of the time that's running the pressure washer. So it's worked really good for that. And then coming down, this was all factory. And then I put in all this. So I ripped out all the fire stuff, and I put in oxyacetylene hose reel, air reel, power reel, and then I've got a reel for the pressure washer. So that's a 100-foot hose reel. And then I even got a marine speaker in here, which is fun until you forget to turn it off and you're driving down the road and people are looking at you like you're crazy because Katy Perry's blaring out the side of your service truck. So you got to be careful to watch for that. But pretty nice because a lot of times if it's at night or early in the morning, you're by yourself anyway, so it's nice to have some tunes cranking. But that's pretty much this half. So this was the pump panel of the fire truck, and it's worked out pretty good. It's got everything I need on a reel because I don't like coiling stuff up. And then these drawers, this is my most used section. If I had to take away the rest of the service truck, I would leave these two compartments and I could do a lot of stuff still. So when I bought it, it did not have these C-Tech drawers in them. I put those in. The color is actually one of their standard colors, and it actually fits the truck really well. It's close enough. And these are actually a super deep compartment. It's like 26 inches deep. So even compared to a regular service body, this is even a little bit deeper than that. And I can store a ton of stuff in here. And I didn't know I had this many tools until I bought these toolboxes, and I filled them up quite rapidly. So I bought a lot when I was going to John Deere school and I was a student. Once I got out of school and I didn't get a discount on Snap-on anymore, I found myself a lot more deal oriented. So that's where I kind of started to buy more of like Proto, Williams, Carlisle, just different brands that were still nice, but a little more budget friendly. And now that I'm independent, I've pretty much gone away from buying a lot of the small hand tools, and it's all specialty stuff. And that's where my big money is. I mean, you could buy a $500 set of Snap-on wrenches, or you can buy this John Deere specific seal driver, and this is almost just as much because, well, it's John Deere. They can charge you whatever they want for their stuff. So yeah, top drawer, tall and skinny, junk drawer. You name it, it's in there. Knives, batteries, keys, anywhere I don't have a place to go, it goes up here. And I'm 6 foot, so some of these are just about right for me, maybe a smidge tall, but it just kind of depends on what a guy is. And then in here, test lights, test bulbs for loading circuits. I've got a vacuum gauge, some of my precision measurement stuff. I got a stare at depth gauge, some bits, not really any rhyme or reason there. This is all the extensions, ratchets. I've got a lot of Armstrong stuff, which is a US brand that's no longer. And they've got some pretty cool stuff. They were like an industrial The guts of this ratchet are basically a Matco. They're interchangeable, probably made in the same spot. Coming down, I've got picks, screwdrivers, Allens, tape measure, some more measurement stuff. Some of like my AC voltage equipment is in here, just different circuit testers and stuff like that, because you do run into some like weird stuff every once in a while, and I don't know, you'll get to work on some place and then they ask you to work on their mini split or their outlets don't work and somehow you turn into an electrician for the afternoon. The next drawer going down, I've got punches, chisels. Most of my stuff's Mayhew. They make really good stuff. I like my bearing race punches a lot. They're oval shape at the end. They do a really good job for pounding and hammering things. Heel bars, and I've heard these called a lot of different things. Lady slippers, heel bars. You could probably call them something and nobody will have any idea what you're talking about. And then coming down here is wrenches. And I've got crescent wrenches, slip joint, big crescent wrenches, and then hydraulic cylinder seal tools. And these are kind of unique. All this stuff is for installing hydraulic cylinder seals. This is for getting the barrels off the ends. This is the same style for the smaller ones. When you get into the heavy duty stuff, it's when you definitely can spend money on just really random stuff, but it's very job specific for doing certain things. I don't keep a huge selection of big wrenches. So my big wrench is 1 5/8 inches, and that's as big as I go. I like a lot of the US industrial brands. So this is a Williams, and a lot of my big wrenches are all Williams or Proto. And then going down, we go into hammers. Once again, some more Armstrong, Snap-on. We've got a brass hammer in here, it's a Carlisle. And just more specific, OEM specific tools. I keep a chain breaker in here because I work on a lot of combines and you end up replacing a lot of roller chain. So this becomes kind of a necessity to accomplish that job. Going into the socket drawer, it's really not that impressive. I don't have a ton of everything. And like, there's a lot of stuff that's missing, like a socket here and a socket there, because if you're in a service truck, you do lose things. That's why I have a hard time buying really expensive sockets. Because if I'm gonna lose something, it's gonna be that. And then like I end up cutting out corners and hacking things off and making them shorter or welding things on to make them longer. So I have a hard time committing to that. And then I also have a pretty good set of adapters going from 1/4 to 3/8, 3/8 to half to 3/8, and everything in between. And then my big sockets, I keep my very like specific size 3/4 drive sockets in here, and then I keep a full set in the back corner. So I go to this drawer quite a bit, but it's just all my general 6-point metric standard sockets. And then going down, this is the plier drawer, so I'm also in here all the time. And once again, no rhyme or reason to what brand. I mean, there's Napa, Snap-on, Vice Grip, Nipex. They're very classic. And I love them both. I really should buy more of their stuff. And then I keep some smaller, like some of the precision pliers and stuff. These get used a lot, especially for pulling connectors apart and trying to cut little things. And then I've acquired some old weird stuff over the years too. Like this is for battery cables. This is older and dirt. Got some zip tie tools. And then, you know, your classic wire strippers, crimpers, hose cutters. Once again, kind of with the heavy duty side, you find yourself with big snap ring pliers. You see a lot of this style snap rings in the heavy equipment for transmissions and things of that nature. So that's pretty much the set of drawers. I keep big bins up here, a lot of electrical stuff in here. I do have one of my favorite tools. I hardly ever use it, but I did buy it on a deal, so I don't feel too bad about it. This is for doing like rolling drag on final drives is what I normally use it for, but a very specific torque wrench that I hardly ever get to use, but it's so cool and it's so beautiful looking. I probably paid like $200 for it when I was a Snap-on during the student program. And that is a sweet deal. If you're a Snap-on guy, buy it when you're going to school or go back to school so you can buy things half price. And then I keep my torque wrenches and stuff up here. This is my only digital torque wrench I have, and it is super nice, but you gotta remember to carry batteries around, so it's just one more thing to keep. If you'll notice, a lot of my like specialty stuff is Snap-on. Stuff that I'm not tempted to cut, bend, weld on. I'll spend money and I'll buy the nice stuff. Rolling on to these drawers. These are awesome because they're super wide and like I said, super deep. I can fit tap and die set, snap ring pliers set, big metric tap and die, some extractors, stuff like that. And then I've got 2 big drawers here. This is where all the smaller daily use wrenches are. So I've got the Mac ratcheting wrenches, And then, like I said, snap-on angle wrenches, most of the heavy-duty guys seem to like those, and I can't say anything different. These are the SK ratcheting wrenches. Kind of a letdown. They look really cool. I was really excited about them, but I don't know, the mechanisms seem to bind up. And if you like pull off to the side when you're ratcheting, I've blown the guts out of a bunch of these. So they're really nice, they're really cool looking, and the open ends are great, but I don't know if it was worth the money there. My other really favorite wrenches are these long zero offset snap-ons. These are pretty awesome. You can put a ton of leverage on. And another letdown, Trebus. I thought I do a ton of hydraulic lines, and I thought, man, this would be cool. Ratcheting 15, 16. I don't think I've ever used this. It just sits in the drawer. So I don't even know why I keep them, but they're there. I bought them. I had good intentions and never used them. I keep a few stubby wrenches, short. These are mostly like garage sale snap-ons, old. Some gear wrench. These are like OG gear wrench, ratcheting wrenches. And then at the end here is the air hammer selection and bits. Nothing too crazy there. Your basic snap-on air hammer and snap-on bits. And then I do have some Tiger Tool stuff. Tiger Tool makes really good stuff. And this is about the perfect size for anybody doing ag work. Any kind of U-joint on John Deere tractors or just tractors in general. The bigger on-road truck size just is too big for most of the stuff I'm doing. So this is about perfect. The top is all my specialty sockets. And this one's actually kind of a fun drawer because it's got a lot of rather unique stuff. So Tecton, I've been a big fan of them lately. I've been buying a lot more of their stuff. So I've got up to 2-inch crescent wrench, not crescent wrench, crow's feet from Tecton. Well, I hope you sell these because they're pretty awesome. And then these are Williams. And these are really awesome for guys that do a lot of hydraulic lines too, like I say, especially in valve bodies and stuff like that, where it's real tight and you don't want, this is just really awkward to try and fit in a lot of spaces where this can really hug and get on there tight. So these are Williams. These torque adapters are pretty awesome too. I say there's certain things where maybe you got a bolt sitting underneath and there's a flange of something that sits on the top. Well, this can just sneak right in there and get in. So like I say, not stuff I'm using every day, more baby crow's feet. And these are some old protos. And the older crow's feet are a lot better because there's just not as much meat there. So like I said, I haven't tried it, but I'm sure you could break these a lot easier, but they also fit into a lot more spots. So some of this older stuff's pretty cool. Over here, I keep a ton of lifting eyes and alignment dowels, just different bolts that I've whacked the head off, ground a bevel, and put a flat spot in there for a screwdriver. Different adapters I've made for the slide hammer. Just a lot of homemade stuff. And then over here is a lot of specialty pullers. A lot of the bearing splitter like this. Stuff like this is a proto. And then like stuff like this. I mean, this is a special John Deere tool for injectors. It's an injector puller. Other tools that I've made. This is a seal driver for a 9-liter. I got a fuel pump, gear puller, like just weird specialty stuff. John Deere turning tool. That's kind of the tough deal with me. I do work on a ton of stuff, but I definitely like brand myself as someone who's like set up for John Deere. And that's why I've ended up with a lot of their specialty tools. And I keep a ton of their stuff tucked in at the end here. This is a John Deere tool, so for front hubs. There's certain times and place where it's just best to buy the right tool. If you know you're gonna use it again, more than a few times especially, you might as well just buy the stupid thing. But yeah, that's pretty much everything in the C-Tech drawers. I love them. If you do end up buying anything from C-Tech, use the code BlueStilly10. It won't get you anything, but maybe if they see that enough times, they'll take pity upon me and send me something, because I would love to have a set on the other side of the truck. Now, these rollout drawers were in here when I got the truck as a Firetruck, so I can't take credit for that. But they work awesome for bulky cases. Like I said, I can push this up and it's tucked out of the way, but when I need it, I just pull right down. So the pack out just keeps all my electrical test equipment as far as leads, different terminals, all that kind of stuff. And then I love the Harbor Freight, like Pelican style cases. They work awesome. So I got an electrical one for electrical test equipment. And then like a lot of these kits I've kind of just put together with just different stuff that make up. This is for charging hydraulic accumulators for like suspension usually, but loader circuits, stuff like that will have them. This is a specific John Deere tool for charging their accumulators. Of course, every OEM has a different fitting to make things difficult, but it doesn't look like much, but this is an expensive charging tool right here. And the last one, this is my kind of a test kit. So this is my Alltel, my oscilloscope, and then my snap-on thermal imager. I do use the crap out of this thing. I do a ton of combine work and stuff like that, so sometimes you can fire a piece of equipment up that's got a lot of bearings, pulleys and stuff, let it run 10, 15 minutes, and then you just kind of walk over and check for hot spots. It's just a quick test. And then over here, this is probably one of the better priced things from these guys, and that's their bearing driver kit. And I use that pretty often. And then pretty much all this stuff is just other miscellaneous kits. I've got, this is kind of a precision measurement kit, a snap-on dial indicator, and then just different feeler gauges that I throw in here. This is for 13.5 liter John Deere engines. So this kind of takes care of any kind of measurement I'm gonna do in the field. This is the John Deere EDL. This is one of those deals where it's just like, to show up and actually work on a lot of the stuff, I don't need it, but there are certain things I have to do through the laptop, and that's the only way we're gonna make that connection. So that pretty much takes care of that. But like I said, when I don't need it, it's just tucked up in there. And then these two covers were for the SCBA bottles when it was a Firetruck. And they just work out swimmingly as nitrogen tank storage. So I pretty much went to my local gas supplier and I just started pulling and fitting tanks in here. I was like, which tank will fit? And this is just about as big as I'm gonna go, because one, I can lump this thing around and carry it and throw it up when I'm charging like an AC system, check for a leak, or like I said, I'm charging a nitrogen accumulator, something like that. I can tote this wherever I need to go, and it's not some big bulky thing. So I keep one on this side, one on the other side, and then we got one back here, and this is actually a fire extinguisher holder. So I do keep two fire extinguishers. All this works really nice. It's nice having something that comes up because it does act as a little shelter. So when it's raining, you're under here. But the lip does drain water, so every time you open up a drawer, there's water dripping in. So if there was one thing I was gonna add to this side, it would be like an RV style awning. I think that'd be super cool. Need to add that to the list of things to do. Now back here is not the prettiest drawer ever, the prettiest compartment. This is just all the fluids and films and the brake clean, the WD-40, any kind of cleaner, paper towel, extra gear oil, grease guns, my garbage pail, more gear oil, and then any kind of like cleaning supplies. So I do keep Armor All, foam cannon. I have found one thing, having a pressure washer on this truck is awesome because I use it all the time. And it is nice when you can get done with a piece of equipment, hit it with the foam cannon, scrub down the panels real quick and wash it off, because people will show up, you know, it's in the middle of the field and it blew a hydraulic line, made a huge mess, and then it's totally clean when they come back. They're just like, how did you do that? And I was like, well, I got a pressure washer and I made use of it. Baling twine for just fish taping things through, and like I said, if I got to pull a hydraulic line through, just tape that off, run it through, and then just, yeah, all the little tidbits and ends, different sealants and quick fixes and get out of jail cards are all back here, emery cloth, just all that kind of consumables compartment. And hard to keep clean, but it's just a lot of stuff ends up in here, so it works out pretty good. And then in the back, and I don't know why more guys don't put these in service trucks, but I took an old toolbox, cut it in half, stuck it in here, put an expanded metal grate in there, and a drain valve welded out the bottom. And anytime I've got a hydraulic cylinder or a valve body or something that's just leaking, dripping stuff, I can just throw that in here, shut the doors, forget it, and drive home, and it doesn't leave a mess. Every once in a while, I get under there, drain the valve into a bucket, and it's empty again. So that's a pretty awesome thing. Like I said, I don't know why. I've had that in another service truck, and I loved it. It was great. Funnels and everything, it just all drains into something that's meant to be drained into, instead of leaving a wet, oily mess all over your service truck.
Is there anything up top there, or is it hard to kind of?
Well, I mean, there's nothing sexy up there, but yeah, this is where I just throw stuff at the end of the day because there's nowhere else good to put it. But I say all my blocking, extra buckets. This is an old mat for a truck bed. If it's really soupy and nasty, you can just roll that sucker out and then you're not laying in the crap. The pressure washer sits up here. And I did have to do quite a bit of looking to find one that was gonna fit in this, because this was the hose bed of the Firetruck. This Firetruck is set up really weird as a Firetruck because it doesn't do a lot of fire truck things well, but it does a lot of service truck things really well. So you wouldn't see this typically. This is super narrow and kind of small, and these are really deep drawers for a fire truck, which you don't see very often, but that appealed to me. So I was really specific about what I was looking for when I went to go find this thing. I can take this out, and then if I need to like sit something up here with a forklift, it's no big deal. It's just a nice open space. So pretty narrow, but you're not gonna stick a big engine back here or anything, but I threw a lot of stuff in here and it works out fine. All these red lenses, everything were on when I bought it. So this is all the original emergency lighting that was here. Now I did take all of these lights because they were old halogens, and I put in motorcycle headlights. They're all LEDs. Because all these manufacturers that make emergency lighting will sell you an LED upgrade kit, and they're like stupid money. I mean, it would have been, for the telescoping light towers, it was like $1,000 for each set. And I was like, I could buy some $100 really nice headlights, and they work just fine. So I did a lot of that. Like I said, all these, this truck was built in '98, so everything was halogen. There was no such thing as, LED was not common then anyway. So I had to do a lot of upgrading lighting, but it's worked out pretty good. I can light this place up pretty good if I want to. So this sticker is made by a guy in Eastern Washington. But if you know the saying, "So God made a farmer," there was an old time show, and it was Paul Harvey, and it's long before my time, but he made that saying kind of famous. If you watch the video that goes along with this, you'll get the gist of why I have it on here. If you're a farm guy, like, it's definitely hits a little different. And if you've watched this far and you think, God, this truck's just way too clean, there's no way he does anything. Well, I do work on a lot of stuff, but I like having a clean truck. And if MTV Cribs is gonna come film your house, why not make sure the house cleaner came through the day before? So I do keep it pretty clean 90% of the time. This is maybe a little cleaner than most of the time, but I like to have a nice, clean, presentable truck going down the road. So this back compartment is pretty much all my heavy lifting. So big jack stands, chain hoists, some chain, off-road floor jack, got a puller set, bottle jacks, my big 3/4 impact sockets, those are Williams, ratchet straps, a 1-inch gun, and then I keep a lot of these. Like, a lot of this stuff came with like furniture and stuff I get, and they just work awesome for if you gotta leave something for a weekend, lay this over the top, keeps the dust and stuff off. It just looks like you care. These are actually pretty awesome because most jack stands suck because it's either too high or it's too low. And these are pretty stout. I had one break on me once, and I was like, all right, that's the end. I'm buying these things. They weren't cheap, but it was like, okay, you got one chance to drop something on you and screw yourself up. So they're rated for pretty much anything I'm gonna put on it. And then the Harbor Freight off-road jack's pretty awesome too. I use this all over the place because a lot of times a bottle jack is really inconvenient, and it stores in here nicely. Chain hoist, big and small, I use the crap out of these, especially the little ones, just for little things. You take something apart, but you need it suspended up in the air, you can just hook, and it holds everything right where you want it. And like I said, this is just kind of big stands, any way to lift stuff is all back here. And if you do notice, that's the one thing this truck lacks is a crane. If I did want to put one on, I certainly could. It'd have to be fairly small, but there's definitely room for it up there. And then I just have to reinforce this compartment. I've thought about it, but so far there hasn't been any job that I haven't been able to do because I didn't have a crane. I was like, either A, I can spend the money and put a hot water pressure washer, or I can put a crane. I was like, well, what would I use more during the week? And I probably use the pressure washer 3-4 times a week. I would not use a crane for what I'm doing that often. So this compartment here is a lot of my supplies and parts. Same deal as the other side. It had a matching roll down, and everything's labeled, so right? Small parts and seals, electrical, fittings, caps and plugs, metric hardware, standard hardware, O-rings. I keep all the clipped off electrical ends. I use this stuff all the time. I'm not a believer in hoarding parts, but electrical connectors will get you out of so many jams, and they don't take up a ton of space. There's a ton of connectors in here. And then AC O-rings, hose clamps, grease fittings, heat shrink, more caps and plugs. I mean, just all the like random stuff. And I've made so many different combinations of this stuff work to get something fixed before. It's just amazing what you can come up with when you're far away from the parts you really want. Kind of this mid shelf is where I keep like wire, heat shrink and stuff. And then some fun stuff I've got in here. So working part-time for the fire department, we have a lot of medical supplies that have a shelf life. So when that stuff expires, you just throw it away. So this is suction tubing. We use this for really sucking things out of people's mouths when they're gurgling up foreign debris. Not a pretty sight, but that is what this hose is used for. It goes on that machine. And like I said, this comes pre-packaged and it has a shelf life. So when it's done, they toss it. So I snag it before it goes in the garbage because it works great for temporary fuel supplies or checking for air in lines. I can put this between filters and hydraulic or injection pumps, all kinds of stuff. And it's a really like gummy end to it. So I can push this over a 1/4 inch barb or a 3/8 barb or a 5/16, whatever I need, and it'll fit and make a pretty tight seal for any kind of like a temporary setup. And it comes from the fire station and it's expired and it's free. Down here is pretty much all John Deere parts. And I've got them, you know, somewhat labeled. It's just miscellaneous switches and relays and stuff that I use all the time. Different hydraulic remote parts and seal kits and just more of the stuff. And I keep more fuel line. This is where the bore scope currently lives, just an Autel. I had a Snap-on one and then it kind of died. And I wasn't gonna spend the money to buy another Snap-on, so bought this one, does a good job. I keep a pretty good selection of hose clamps. I got like 2 or 3 different cases. I got all kinds of big stuff, little stuff, ton of different exhaust clamps, just stuff that you might be doing a job and you forget to order or you didn't order enough of. So I try to save myself from having to make as many trips back. You know, if I can save a half-hour trip, that's awesome, that saves the guy money. So another nitrogen bottle over here. These compartments were used for the fire truck for the SCBA, so that's the oxygen cylinders the firefighters use. Those have actually worked out really nice. At first I had no clue what I'd use them for, and they worked out pretty good. Moving into this drawer, this is a lot of the AC stuff. So I keep a couple tanks of refrigerant, vacuum pump, Milwaukee vacuum, everyone should have one of these. All my torch accessories, so rosebud, cutting torches, all that stuff. I don't do a ton of that, but when I need it, I need it. All my miscellaneous AC parts, Schrader valves, caps, expansion valves, all that kind of stuff. Nitrogen test kit, flush kit. Up here is pretty much all bad weather clothing. Boots, rain jackets, bibs, all that kind of stuff. If it's wet, nasty, and muddy, that kind of clothing ends up here. And then my AC scale is up there too. So this is kind of an AC and bad weather drawer. So the name of the truck is Big Bird, and I think that's pretty appropriate. I can't honestly remember who said that name first, but when I heard it, I was like, that's it. That's got to be Big Bird. It stuck pretty good, and most people get a pretty good laugh at it, especially if they got kids or something in traffic. At first, I did not like, when I saw the images of this truck coming up for auction, it was on the other side of the country, and I was like, I don't like that yellow. I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna paint it. But after a 2,000-mile drive home, you just kind of like it, and then the yellow grew on me. I'm a fan of yellow. I'd buy another one. Up here is where I keep the tanks, my oxygen acetylene, and then AC gauges, extra air hose, extra extension cords. I keep a come along in here, sledge, pipe wrench. Once again, we start to get into the more specialized. So here's a hydraulic flow rater. Another one of those expensive specialty tools, but you gotta have it. This is a charging kit for 2-track John Deere tractors. So this actually plugs into the rear SCV remote, and then this plugs into the side on the cylinder, and you can charge the track tension back up. So one of those deals, you don't use it all the time, but there's really no way you're gonna jerry rig this. I mean, you just gotta have the right stuff sometimes. That's why I have a big service truck, so I can keep all that fun stuff. This side of the truck, I don't access as much. I usually use it for like immediate part storage, and then a lot of this is just like spare clothes, and I get dirty all the time. I soak myself with oil, so I always keep a spare set of coveralls, spare set of clothes, just whatever. My DJI drone, because I do have a fun time flying the drone around sometimes, so I keep that in a case. Being in a fire truck, people just run up to you when they have problems. So I do keep a pretty sweet first aid kit back here because I have pulled up on some pretty good car accidents, and people driving by do not think that this is a service truck. They do think it's a fire truck. And that is really nice because people drive so nice around me. Like if you think you're about to pull out into traffic and they're gonna flip you off, they're like, nope, just they wave you on because they're like, it's a fire truck. Oh, this isn't a fire truck anymore, but awesome, I'll take it, you know? Now, I don't know, I think this is kind of an international thing, but that latch does not work. So to get the door to shut, you gotta use the striker. I don't know. There's probably a fix out there. I just need to Google it because I'm sure they made a million of these drawers and I can't be the only guy with that problem. Up here, I just left the seat in here. And like I said, most of the time, what you'll find up here is the last parts I picked up. Coolant, whole bunch of hydraulic cylinder repair kits, because that's on the list of things to do. If you're looking for a hidden gem, an old fire truck is the way to go. It's a real small engine. It's the 7.3 Power Stroke. So this thing is not gonna win any speed races. And if you watch this video and you've driven behind me before, I apologize. It's slow. It's geared to go 55. At some point, I'll probably re-gear it so it goes faster, but it is super, super slow. You are not gonna get anywhere fast with this truck, which is its probably biggest downfall. And it doesn't have air conditioning. But yeah, it's been a great rig. I can't complain about it at all. Yeah, so as you can see, the sun's going down on our day and it's coming down on the end of this video. So if you like what you saw, comment, support Fortis HG, check them out, see what they're doing. They're doing a lot of cool stuff and I appreciate them coming down to check out my service truck.
Once again, head over to FortisHG.com for any tools, tracks, and parts you need. If you want to watch another video, you can click here.